Anyway, this is what we're going to do for the next several minutes. We're going to talk about culture changes. We're going to talk about the man of wisdom being Solomon. We're going to talk about 4 types of people, the way they think, the way they act, and what is the cure for each one in every one of these 4 seats. And I do have a recommendation for a tattoo. I've been around Maranatha since 1982, and you're just going to have to take this for granted. I am tattooless. I'm not going to start taking off clothes to prove it to you. But I don't have a tattoo on my body, and I've survived well in the Maranatha community of tattoos all over on everyone. And I'm there, so it's welcome for everyone. And then also I have a challenge for us. And that's it. Then we're eating, what are we eating?
Breakfast burritos.
Breakfast burritos. Okay, here we are, the changing cultures. Growing up in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s, think about this, for those of you who are in that era. First, we survived being born to mothers who smoked and or drank while they carried us. They took aspirin, ate blue cheese dressing, tuna from a can, and did not get tested for diabetes. Then after that trauma, our baby cribs were covered with bright color lead-based paint, if you can imagine. We had no child-proof lids on medicine bottles, doors, or cabinets, and when we rode our bikes, we had no helmets, not to mention the risks that we took hitchhiking. And I'm not saying, I think there's some things that we need to go back to, not particularly some of these, but how the culture has changed. As children, we would ride in cars with no seat belts or airbags. And every time I think about seat belts, remember I was a state trooper? I remember one of my daughters, my oldest daughter, I was on Highway 36. In fact, we were in our Dodge Swinger. And I ended up going northbound in McKnight, and next thing I know, she wasn't in her seatbelt. She flew out my door, and I looked at her in my rearview mirror. She hadn't had a seatbelt on. I just can't fathom me being a state trooper, how I ever didn't have her buckled in 14 times. So riding in the back of pickup trucks on a warm day was always a special treat. We drank water from the garden hose and not from a bottle. We shared one soft drink with 4 friends from one bottle, and no one actually died from this. We ate cupcakes, white bread, and real butter, and drank soda pop with sugar in it, but we weren't overweight because we were always playing outside. We did not have PlayStations, Nintendos, Xboxes, no video games at all, no 40 channels on cable, no videotape movies, no surround sound, no cell phones, no personal computers, no internet chat rooms. We had friends, and we were outside, and we found them. Here's the thing, we ate worms, mud pies made from dirt. Actually, they found clinically, it's good for our kids to play a little bit in some dirt. And the worms did not live in us forever. We were given BB guns for our 10th birthdays, made up games with sticks and tennis balls. And although we were told it would happen, we did not put out many eyes. So here's the thing, our culture has changed. Me being an old guy, you being a younger guy, our culture is so constantly fluid. It's changing all the time. And I can just say, as Christians, or even if you're not a Christian, you don't want to stay in the current of culture, or you're going to find yourself in trouble. So we had freedom back then, we had failures, we had successes and responsibility, and we learned how to deal with it all. So whatever area you grew up into, you need to know this. It's continually changing. Americans think, work, love, play, vote, and learn differently. Just to kind of illustrate a couple different things that I didn't want to get too spiritual on you right away. So we need to talk about this thing in mental health. I've been in mental health for probably 20 years, working a specialty program in private practice, and unequivocally, without a doubt, our kids are becoming more and more depressed at an earlier age. They did this study between 8th and 10th graders, and they correlated teenager activities to happiness. Like, in other words, what activities are our kids doing back in this 2013 to 2016 that made them happy? And then they correlated the idea about screen time and non-screen time to happiness. And as you know, screen time is very important. Back in my day growing up, it was kind of like TVs. And we called them the electronic babysitters. And we wanted to, as parents, my parents didn't want us to have too much time there. Well, the whole culture has changed drastically. And We're all living in there. Anyway, it's probably hard to see this graph, but the green, the things on the right are the activities, and I'll kind of read some of them for you. The green is good. So with these 8th and 10th graders, sleep is great. Sports and exercise, in-person socialized interaction, volunteer work, going to movies, religious services, those kind of things were all green, which is good for kids, good for us as adults. The red things down at the bottom, there's correlation between these high schoolers. Internet news is red, talking on cell, video chats, texting, leisure time, social media, computer games, internet learning, or listening to music. The difference between listening to music now as opposed back in my day, the thing was, let's say, the Beatles. And like, for example, my wife, she'd have all her girlfriends and boyfriends, you know, I'm trying to lobby in the bunch. I'm telling her, you need to date me. Go in alphabetical order, A for Anderson, see. But that didn't work. It took me some time. But anyway, everyone would kind of get around and you'd sing this Beatles song, whatever it was, on a 45 record, over and over and over, and you wear the thing out. The problem is now in society is that you put in earbuds, plugs, bugs, whatever, you go into your room and you isolate yourself. And there are many studies there right now saying, like for Psychology Today, it says by far the greatest changes in teens' day-to-day life between 2011 and 2015 was the spread of smartphones. And again, I'm not against them. There's nothing wrong with having a smartphone and the growth of social media, but nothing else came close. I'm just saying that we need to be aware in the culture of what social media does and all this automation stuff. Pew Center, 2012, 75% of Americans own smartphones. They're here to stay. So I'm just saying, especially for us, because we want to sit in this chair over here of wisdom, and you don't get there by osmosis, I know that. It's like we don't go to bed Friday night, wake up Saturday morning, and you're in the wisdom chair. And again, that's what we're all aspiring to do and to sit. And if you aren't a Christian, if you're just kind of checking this God thing out, not a problem. You will, even if you don't believe in God and whatever, you want to sit in the wisdom chair because it's going to save you challenges in the game of life. So kids with more than 2 hours a day of screen time by the age of 5 are almost 8 times more likely to meet the criteria for ADD, which is attention deficit, or ADHD, the hyperactivity piece of that youngsters who spend less than 30 minutes a day looking at a screen, according to a 2019 Canadian study. So these are really secular organizations, but nonetheless, they're very professional, a lot of research, and they're kind of suggesting that. So the two biggest things, social media and isolation. A likely explanation could be the concurrent rise in social media, they said, in addition to being less likely to interact face-to-face. I'm telling you, there's nothing like us interacting face-to-face, bar none. Whether you come in church, you're face-to-face with your neighbors, your friends, the body, your brothers and sisters, it's extremely important. Where the enemy wants us to be, just to isolate ourselves, to get us alone, to leave us to our own thoughts, instead of something challenging us. So those who use social media frequently are also those likely to be involved in cyberbullying, which is a completely different thing. We could go down a rabbit hole, try not to, which has been linked to depression, self-harm, and suicidal thoughts. The increase in adolescent major depressive disorder, and again, if you're in a major depressive disorder, I mean, this is where my heart is. 1, 2. Or these 3 chairs are. I mean, for some people can take the word, they know the rules of the path, because we're all on this path, we're on this journey. And the God who created all the heavens and the earth sets guidelines for us to follow on the path. And the person, the young person, the middle-aged person, the old person that follows the path like they really should, are going to be in the wisdom chair. They aren't going to have a problem that much in life. They have communication with the King of Kings. It's these other people that get in trouble by not following the path And that's where my heart is. I mean, my heart has always been in the secular arena. I love it. Because I can bring Christ after I became a Christian in 1982, which is a while ago, that I can bring Christ to my secular arena, that Billy Graham was one of my favorite guys. Old guy. He had a great message. And you have to think about this, for those of you that are sitting in that wise chair, that you have a sphere of influence wherever you are, that the Billy Grahams of the world can't touch, that you're there. I mean, that you're halfway there, and that's going to be part of the challenge, is to just think about those people in your sphere of influence that you can start mentoring and being the ambassador that God wants you to be. The increase in adolescent major depression began after 2011, concurrent with the increased ownership of smartphones. And you have to remember, this is a secular organization across the country, psychologists that came up with it, who are extremely, by trade, liberal. And concomitant, which just means at the same time, increase in digital media time in this age group. So here's the question. So how do we live wisely in a very foolish world that is constantly changing about the way we think, work, love, play, vote, and learn? We have to go to, and again, sorry about the design. This techie thing is crazy. My fonts are kind of changed, a little big, whatever. I'll try to do it a little better maybe next time, but I'll read things to you. So when we talk about Solomon and wisdom, they're just kind of like hand in hand. I mean, where he's been noted as perhaps the wisest man outside of Jesus. He was the third king of Israel. He was the 17th son of 19 sons. He was 20 years old. Now you have to imagine, read a couple of these scriptures. He was a 20-year-old kid. And I think about how I was at 20. I would never have the prayer or the vision or the heart that Solomon had at that time. So in 1 Kings 3:7, you want to read that on your own. It's a very important dream. It's an interactive dream and very engaging. So this is Solomon's words. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I am only a child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? Solomon had an opportunity to ask God for anything. He didn't ask him for gold, silver, a long life, or the life of the enemies that he was engaged in. That he really had great maturity at such an early age. And then 1 Kings 3:12, you can read it on your own. It's pretty much that there's not, this is God speaking then in this dream, that there's not been a man the same as Solomon before his day, nor during his day, nor after his days. I mean, he's a just great guy. Neighboring kings would be sent to Solomon as a young person at 20. And if we read some of the scriptures, we'll see that he's just great. It was a great gift that he had. He had great discerning, and he wrote several proverbs and songs. So as we start getting into things, many authors of the Bible, they would categorize people. Like, for example, the author of Hebrews talked about the immature and the mature. Paul categorized people, Jews, Gentiles, justified, condemned. Jesus categorized people, faithful, and the ones that are faithless. People being for him or people being against him. Sheep, goats, wolves. Solomon categorized people in 4 classes. That's it. So many times as a therapist, even though I have a private practice, I have to think according to what they call the DSM, which is the Bible in mental health. I have to think or diagnose people in terms of that. But many times, I am thinking, where are they from a scriptural perspective? And Solomon says there's only 4 categories of people. We know that one's the wisdom piece. And you can be sitting at any one of these chairs, and every one of these chairs, you can truly be saved. Asking Christ to come into your life or surrendering your life to Christ, you can sit in any one of these chairs if you want to. but you don't want to. You want to keep moving on. You want to be in this chair, aspiring to be there. And it doesn't make any difference what your age is, what your class, your race, your gender, your socioeconomic state. It doesn't make any difference what variable you put there. The principles are the same for all of us on the path. So we're going to talk about 4 types of people. We're going to talk about their thoughts, their behaviors, and is there really a cure? And just like in the case of your Pastor Bill, there was a cure. But this is the important thing I want you to think about. What chair are you sitting in? There's only one of 4. No more. And so here, I don't want you throwing banana peels at me, rocks, whatever. Because some of the verbiage that I come up with, Solomon says this is what this chair is called. So we have the wise up. This one is the simple. Now, I'm not going to disclose too much, but trust me, I probably sat in every one of these chairs for a little while. Because I was kind of a rebellious, strong-willed guy, if you can believe that. But God got a hold of me, too, and kind of changed me. But the simple person, let's look at the simple person. We're going to look at some of the things that go on in a simple person. They're generally naive, and in a way, they're clueless. Taylor Swift, and I know it might be controversial this day and age, but I'm talking about back in the day, go back with me now, that she had this right on that song. When you're 15 and someone says they love you, you're going to believe them.
And you should sing it.
Sing it? No, in fact, my wife says, my wife is my humbling thing. Whenever she kind of senses I'm getting a little whatever, she just gives me a zinger. And she'd say one time, Dave, what do you think about lip syncing during worship service? And I'm kind of going, I'm just kidding, she did. But we have that kind of relationship. But anyways, so they're not dumb, they're just naive or clueless. And they're usually a young person. Doesn't have to be. I've talked to many people. Again, my heart is with people that are stuck in one of these chairs because I could have been there. And Taylor Swift, she kind of cracks me up. She hit it so good. But it doesn't mean that you're dumb or you're stupid if you're in this chair. Oh, I think maybe we'll skip this story. Well, the story you can read on your own. It's in Proverbs 7. And it's really a story about this simple young man well, let me quick read it. So he thinks he's in for a good time. He's a simple person, in for a good time. And let's read the scripture. With her much fair speech, she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips, she forced him. Now that we could get off on a tangent. What in the world does all that mean? But nonetheless, he went after her straightway as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver as a bird goes to the snare, and knows not that it is for his life. So some of these decisions that we make, the thing we need to remember, even if you're a young person, I'm going to tell you how you can have it all soon, for those of you that are young. In fact, most of you are pretty young compared to me. But you can have the best of two worlds, but there's some things that you can't do. You respond to kind of wisdom, because wisdom is there for all of us at the asking. But the simple person is going to say, nothing's going to happen to me. I mean, I can remember back in the simple chair, nothing's going to happen to me. I got her made. I'm not going to die. What are you thinking? You know, I can handle this. There's no piece of cake. But when you're 15 and someone tells you that they love you, you're going to believe them. And here's my caution to girls. Let me tell you, boys between the ages of 14 and 18, if they say they love you, they're kind of this criteria that if their lips are moving, they're lying. Don't believe them. Wait till things kind of grow up a little bit. And I say that facetiously, but what you need to be careful, because they know love, and during that age, it's very difficult sometimes to kind of transverse through that, but just be careful. Because the decisions that you make in this chair, or that chair, even though you're young way back there, it's simple, they can affect you for the rest of your life. And if you want to spend a lifetime, I don't have a whole lifetime left, but you want to spend a lifetime talking with someone about how kind of helping you through these tragedies or whatever, it's much easier for you to sit in that chair and ask God for his wisdom for you. So again, it's not because you're bad, you're stupid, you're just lacking experience. Because if you're thinking in that chair, you haven't had any financial tension. And we know that for those of us that have lived a while, financial tensions are horrific, especially this day and age. I mean, way back in the day, Marianne and I made a covenant saying, hey, I think I can go to college. And she'd be staying at home with the children because no one could do better. So that's a covenant we made. This day and age, you don't have that luxury. I mean, it takes so much income and finance to just stay afloat. And relationship tensions, as a simple person, you don't really have that much in addiction. In addiction, we can go down a rabbit hole on addictions that you don't want to get caught up in addictions. If you are, really call me. Or reach out to a friend that can help you work through that. Because we can all make it, no matter where we are in these chairs, you can always get to the wisdom chair. But it's going to take some work. It's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to make some good decision making on your part. So you can have the best of two worlds for you youngsters. So the youth, they can really hang out in the coffee shops and do whatever you all do there, drink lots of coffee. And you can wear your skinny jeans. And again, hey, here comes the same joke, but it's kind of the truth. The skinny jeans. I unfortunately lost about 35 pounds this last year. And so I was just kidding with my wife like I generally do. And I said, hey, what do you think? I was just thinking about, I'm going to get a pair of skinny jeans. And she goes, well, Dave, you're kind of an adult. You're old enough to make your decision. I've given you this freedom to act, whatever. But if you buy a pair of skinny jeans, and further, if you wear them, I'm going to first service, you're going to second service. So no skinny jeans for the kid. Or you can have your different hair colors. And again, for a while, our generation would fight against hair colors. I mean, people that wear dog collars around their neck, thinking it was a principle. When really, it's only a preference. I mean, it's just, hey, if someone likes their hair blue, orange, well, who cares? Is there any violating any big principle on the path of life? No, I don't think so. So you could have it all, but you're going to need wisdom for those of you that are sitting in that wisdom or that simple chair. And you need to ask for wisdom. I'll tell you how we do that. And you need to get a tattoo. Again, so a little ways, I'm kind of stuck on the tattoo thing, even though I don't buy it. But this is what it needs to read. I refuse to trade what I want most for what I want in this moment. Now, really, we just don't have to put it in the simple chair. We can put it in these other 3 chairs. So the decisions that we make, we have to think about the future. Because here's the thing, as Christians, for those of you that believe that way, hey, heaven's our home already. We're just ambassadors. We're just kind of floating through. And many times, each week I offer my body as a living sacrifice to God about how he would like to use me for the day. And sometimes I'm very surprised at the positions that I find myself in, wondering, God, did you really allow this to happen? But we have to think about the future and not in the moment. So the cure for the simple person is time. Hopefully they're going to traverse into what we call maturity and making good decisions. So here's what we need to do. We can have it all if you're young or if you're sitting in that chair. Again, you could be 80 years old and sitting in that chair, being simple and not following the principles of the path to a different place. But here's what you're going to have to do like all of us. You need to stop at every invitation, every opportunity, every decision that you make. Whether it's at work, whether it's out in the community, it's at home with your children, whatever you do. And you need to ask yourself this question. In light of my past experiences, my current circumstances that I'm in, and my future hopes and dreams, what's the wisest decision for you to do? And if you can get that template, we could spend an hour just on that alone, where that question comes up, but we don't have time. Time just keeps slipping away. Second person is a fool. Again, don't throw anything at me. Solomon says fool. So from now on, I would really encourage us all, every day, read a proverb or a piece of Proverbs. And sometimes it isn't going to make sense. There's many times over the years I've just read that and go, what the heck's that about? And kind of move on. But it'll come in time. And if you want to be wise, just like you need to eat a balanced diet, you need to eat a spiritually balanced diet as well. And don't forget a proverb. So the second type is a fool. Maybe you might know someone. I don't want you to be nudging your partner, whatever. I wish so-and-so was here, whatever. They're not, so we all are here. So this type of second person knows but does not care. And you will ask them, are you really going to do that? So you ask this person, are you really going to go do what you're thinking about doing? Yeah, I really don't give a whatever, fill in the blank. I know you don't cuss around here and stuff, but you fill in the blank or fill in that word that all your friends use all the time, but they just don't care. Or they will say it's none your business. I know where this is going to lead, yes, but it's fun. I know this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Many times the person that sits in this chair know the consequences, but they just don't care. Solomon says that you're a fool. And so the old proverb talks about as we sit in these chairs, again, I want you to think about what chair are you in and what are you willing to do about sliding over, or are you being nudged to go somewhere in the way of maturity? Proverbs says this, Solomon says this, as a dog returns to its vomit, sorry for the metaphor, kind of looking at that, but most of us have probably seen that. So fools repeat their folly. So if you bring it up to them, remember the last time you drank. You went to jail. I'm not going to get into can you drink or can't you drink, and those kind of things. Some people, let me tell you, some people can't drink. You should not drink it. It'd be slow poison for you. But you have to come to that realization, on your own. And God, with God's help, He can help you all through. Remember the last time you smoked weed. Remember the last boyfriend. Remember the last girlfriend. She was a fox, but it's fun. So here's what I really want to ask you this question and to think about between you and God. And I am not a prophet. I don't know who's sitting where. But if you want to think about the way the foolish person thinks, you want to think about in your life, what is it that you're doing that you know is not the best thing to be doing and you're continuing to keep doing it? Because you have to remember this, and we'll talk about this in just a little while, is the principles of the path. That every day, every minute, every hour, you and I, whether we're Christians or not Christians, doesn't make any difference, we are sowing and reaping. You can be guaranteed that. I don't care if you're president of the United States, if you're the president of North Korea, or whoever you are, we are sowing and reaping every day. And that mentality is, what did I do? But it's fun, and you only live once. And again, I can remember being there. A fool finds pleasure in evil conduct, King James Version. It is a sport to a fool to do mischief. And again, I think we need to really introspect. Our last DWI, probably the highest number, I think, is probably about eight DWIs that I've dealt with someone. And the thing is that the consequences are horrific of sitting in some of these chairs. And the consequences go on and on and on, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Or your last relationship, your last business adventure. We need to look at your last gambling binge. I mean, some people really, can you go gamble? Yeah, some people can't. I mean, you want to avoid it like the plague if you can. There's just so many other things to do. If it's a slippery slope for you, that you need to avoid it. And is there a cure? Here's the cure for a person that sits in this chair. Well, here's some more thought process. It's my body. I will do what I want. It's my life. I am hurting no one. This is the biggest. If we sit in other than the wise chair, we're going to be deceived. And you know who that is. The one that's coming out to steal, kill, and destroy every one of us along the way. That's a spiritual thing. So we're being deceived. It's my life. I am hurting no one. It's my body, it's my money, it's my time. I can do whatever I want. I am hurting no one. And this is the truth about that. Proverbs 13:20, he who walks with the wise grows wise. So you want to think about that. If you want to become wise, start hanging around with some wise friends. You don't always have to be around wise people, but you are like the people that you hang around with. So you want to be wise. That's why I rarely have seen your pastor over the years. No, I'm just kidding. Bad. I just owe him so many insults. And I know you love him, and I love him as well. But if you want to be, you hang around with those people. That's about a companion of fools suffers harm. So what that means, you think about this companion. A companion could be your mate, a comrade, associate, a partner. It can be a mother, a father, or a husband, wife, brother, sister, employer, employee, or pastor, or leader. You'd be coupled up in many ways. And this is the truth. If you are the mother of or the father of a foolish person that sits in this chair, you could be sitting in the wisdom chair. But if you're hooked up with that foolish person, or if you're the husband of or the wife of a foolish person, if you are the brother or the sister of a foolish person, if you are the brother, or if you are the employee of or employer of a foolish person, or if you're the pastor or leader of a foolish person, you will suffer harm. You can be in this chair, being mature and being godly and whatever, but if you're hooked up in any way with a person that makes a foolish decision, you're going to suffer harm. It almost feels like you're being victimized, but that's just the way that the proverb works. So when this person's sitting in this chair and he goes, him or her, I'm hurting no one. It's my body. I can do what I want. I mean, that's far from the truth. That you hurt many people that love you. So, think about this of the foolish person. If a foolish person does not take care of their own bodies, they will not take care of yours. If a foolish person does not care about their finances, they're not going to be caring about your finances. If a foolish person does not care about their future, they will not care about their future. So the cure for a simple person sitting in that chair is time. Hopefully they're going to work through. But many times over the years that I've had many older people sitting in the simple chair, particularly on that simple concept I remember I facetiously brought up about when you're 15 and someone says they love you, whatever. Well, sometimes, and again, it's many times gals can be 30, 40 years old, and they go through these very terrible, tough relationships because they keep believing in this person that says that they love them and care for them and all those kind of things, and they don't have the right hedges up. If anything's wrong, they have too big of a heart because they're too caring, they're too giving. When they need to be setting some boundaries or some guidelines, they get stuck there, and it becomes terribly horrific. But I love working, again, with people in these three chairs. I just love encouraging and inspiring them to know that, hey, there's hope. Look at me. I mean, there's hope, all of us, that the road is difficult at times, but we know that, hey, we are plugged in to the creator of the whole universe. That's what I like about Pastor Bill talked about. Think about this, all our problems that we all have problems. Problema, in the Latin, it means to propel or drive forward. Now, I'm still not at the point that I'm thankful for problems in my life. There are times I just wonder, because I really think about this metaphor, that God in my life, I might be arrogant enough to think that God's like this, and he only allows things to be sifted through his hands before they get delivered to me. And so that might be an arrogant way to look at it, but then I have no alternative, be mad at God when things happen in my life. But problems, really, we need to be thankful for our problems because they're designed to make us better and to stay in that chair. But there's so many distractions in the world. Like when you come in here, you just really think, hey, creator of the heaven and the earth. And he's listening to every one of us, regardless of what our trade is. Again, I just love working in the secular arena. I don't get caught up in the culture. And so the simple, they're just not going to get you. The fool's going to just ignore you. The third chair, and hopefully, I would say OMG for oh my gosh. If you're sitting in this chair, the mocker or the scoffer, again, you don't just arrive there. You don't go to bed on Friday night, wake up Saturday morning, and you're in that chair. It's a slow evolutionary process of weighing it at every invitation, opportunity, and decision the wrong way many times. So I kind of talk about them as being the fool on steroids. They're really critical, condescending, smartest. Many times their IQs are way high. I mean, it's amazing some of the IQs I've had as clients. And the first thing I say, in fact, I had one at, 160 and 130. And they're kind of, I mean, they're way beyond me. And during a first session, say, hey, look, I don't want to do any harm. Your IQ is so much higher than me. I don't want to do any harm. I don't even know if I can relate to you. Because they're just IQs out of this world, top 1%. So many times these people are extremely smart. But remember, scripturally we talk about sometimes our education stumbles us. Because if God kind of had this standard of, hey, to figure out this God thing and how heaven's going to become our home, you need an IQ of 108. Well, I wouldn't be there. You know what I'm saying? That God makes it for the simple. It's simple, but yet it's hard to do every day. So, but they control their world through cynicism. Again, most of the time it's been my experience that they're guys that sit in this chair. Not that gals don't, they do, but I think they win the majority in my experience. So the way they think, they have a self-importance that's way elevated. Their self-esteem's like 10 on a 10-point scale. They lack empathy, they're arrogant, they're excessive urge for admiration, strong sense of entitlement. And then there's some other things on there too that kind of categorize them. And when really in actuality, they come across that they're the polished diamond in the box, when really they're suffering from very fragile self-ego. And they just have to keep telling themselves. I don't want to spend a lot of time there, but I just want to talk about them a tad. Proverbs 13:1, a wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker does not listen to rebuke. I can just say this, along the way, when people come challenge us about things, the people that care about us, I mean, outside, a lot of people just do it to be brash, but the people that really care for you, and they're trying to reflect what they see as, you know, that they love you, and they're reflecting some things about you, consider thinking about that as being the truth. But if you keep rebuking that whole thing, you're going to find your chair, you're going to be moving down this way. And you don't want to do that. So whoever corrects a mocker invites insults. Whoever rebukes a wicked man incurs abuse. Now, abuse is not good. It's just not a little chastising. Abuse, it's kind of over the top. So it says, do not rebuke a mocker or he will hate you. So this is the antidote for a person that sits in this chair. Drive out the mocker. Again, now this is Solomon speaking. It's not God. God's is a little different than with Solomon. But Solomon's saying of all his vast experience in dealing with these four kinds of people, sometimes it's best to do that because he says, drive out the mocker and out goes strife, quarrels, and insults are ended. So we need to get to wisdom. We're going to quickly scroll through this. What's the purpose of wisdom? It's for acquiring a disciplined and prudent life. So prudent. If you show good and careful judgment when handling practical matters, you are described as being prudent. Every day, you just have to think, every day these little decisions that we make are going to reap us a harvest of something. And it's keep on the edge. Doing what is right and just and fair. Where's wisdom found? On the heights along the way where the paths meet, she takes her stand. And again, Solomon personifies wisdom as a she. Besides the gates leading into the city, all the entrances, she cries aloud, to you, O men, I call out. I raise my voice to all mankind. You who are simple, you will gain prudence. You who are foolish will gain understanding. Listen, I have worthy things to say. It's not found in colleges, and I have nothing wrong with college. I spend many hours in colleges. And on those multiple choice exams and my licensing board, when in doubt, choose C. Let that be a tip for you. It's about how I got through. It wasn't because of my smarts or whatever. It was God's plan for my life. But wisdom is there for every one of us, regardless of where you are, India, wherever. It doesn't make any difference where you are. And this is all we need to do. James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. He gives generously to all without finding fault. So that's all we have to do is ask. We serve the King of Kings. Wisdom is saying, all you got to do is ask. Do I buy? Do I sell? Do I marry this buff-looking guy? Do I marry this gal? I mean, all the things that we have in life. That all we have to do is ask wisdom. And there's some benefits of wisdom. We'll kind of go through that. All right, so there are the consequences for you and I rejecting wisdom. If you're Christian or not Christian, it doesn't make any difference. If you reject the call of wisdom that's there in the path, there's a consequence. This should scare the living chair out from underneath where some of yous might be. Okay, again, this is not God. This is Solomon talking. And here we go. If you had responded to my rebuke, this is wisdom. I would have poured out my heart to you and made my thoughts known to you. But since you rejected me and I called, and no one gave heed when I stretched out my hand, since you ignored all my advice and would not accept my rebuke, I in turn will laugh at your disaster. I will mock when calamity overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, when distress and trouble overwhelm you, then they will call to me, being wisdom, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but they will not find me. Since they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord, since they would not accept my advice and spurned my rebuke, they will eat the fruit of their paths, or fruit of their ways, and be filled with the spirit of their schemes. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety. They'll be at ease without fear of harm. So the thing that you need to remember, that wherever seat that you think that you might be in, wisdom, not God. God will never give up with you. I don't care what you do. Rob banks, do any dastardly deed that you want. God will not leave you nor forsake you. He's always there, beckoning, come, come. But wisdom says, according to Solomon, that it will leave you. Wisdom will leave you in that chair. So basically what it's saying is that you're going to suffer the fruits of your ways, the principles of the path of reaping and sowing. Sowing and reaping, the constant thing. So you correct the simple and they won't get you. You correct the fool, they'll ignore you. Correct the mocker, they will hate you. Correct the wise and they will thank you. So in summary, we're living in a constantly changing world. The culture. Americans think, work, love, play, vote, and learn differently. Every one of us, whatever seat you've determined that you're in, doesn't make any difference. We need wisdom. All we have to do is ask. Just like, hey, God, hey, it's me, Putz. I've kind of ruined things so far, whatever. I need wisdom. What's the wise thing for me to do? Remember that question I have. Every invitation, every opportunity, every decision, what do you need to ask yourself? And based upon my past experiences, my current circumstances, my future hopes and dreams, what's the wise decision for me to do? Again, my past is different than yours. It's going to make a difference about how you answer those questions, because I could do some things that you shouldn't, and you could do some things that I'm not going to because of our past. So we want to keep doing that. And I want to close with this, and then I'll ask Pastor Bill to come. So you in one of four chairs, that's what Solomon says. If you're in the wisdom chair, good work, keep it up. I have no concerns for you, except you need to stay on task and keep doing it. And if you're in the foolish chair, or the simple chair, your challenge would be grow up. You need to mature. Don't be naive anymore. Foolish, start caring. Start caring about yourself. Then you start caring about others. If you're a mocker or a scoffer, stop controlling others and thinking you're always right and others are really stupid. And remember the principles of the path. The Archimedes principle. We take a 500-pound boulder, toss it off in South Center Lake. It's going down to the bottom. It doesn't make any difference if I'm black, white, purple, pink, whatever gender I am or age or whatever, that boulder's going down. It's the same thing, the principles of the path, we're all on it. And we're reaping and sowing. And my last, don't sit on one of these other chairs too long. The consequences might affect you for the rest of your life. Nothing to do about heaven being your home, but the world might be a little more challenging for you. And so I'll leave with this, Ephesians 5:15 to 17. This will be my challenge. Be very careful then how you live. As I talk to you, it's the same thing with me. How we live wherever we go into our environment, wherever we are, as you go to work, do these things, be very careful how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise. Making the most of every opportunity that you have to be the ambassador of Christ for those of you that are Christians and permeate that environment. I think Christians could have such an amazing impact in the world if more were sitting in the wise chair, be making wise decisions. I think we just do so many things. Because the days are evil, therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Amen. Let me say a prayer. Lord, as always, we thank you for this time. And Lord, as we go about our busy schedules this week, Lord, I just pray that you just prick the consciences of all of us to read a little bit of Proverbs every day, along with other things that we do. And Lord, may we be a mighty influence for you. And for those who are terribly discouraged and depressed right now, just provide hope for them. And Lord, I just pray that you miraculously just touch them right now, wherever they might be. They have become discouraged in this game, and they just think that life is just nothing but problems. And Father, I just pray that your Spirit just floods over them and puts people in their way that can help them. And Lord, our prayer is this. Please give us the wisdom to remain in the wisdom chair for the rest of our days. In your name we pray. Amen.